In the far reaches of the galaxy, on a planet called Nimra, a secret was buried deep within the human race's history. So deep that even the most advanced civilizations across the stars had forgotten. To the inhabitants of Nimra, humanity was a mere myth, a story whispered by the few who had encountered the distant species long ago. But on one fateful day, that myth would come crashing into reality. Riley was a girl like any other, except she wasn't. Born to a simple family of farmers on the outskirts of Nimra's capital, she knew little of the stars or the civilizations that dotted the galaxy. Her world was small, filled with the rhythm of daily life and the soft lull of nature that surrounded her home. She had no reason to suspect she was anything other than ordinary, save for the recurring dreams that had haunted her since childhood. Every night, her dreams were the same. A warship, sleek and black, hurtling through the vast expanse of space, chasing a shadow that was always just out of reach. A voice calling to her from a distant place, speaking of a great power hidden within her, waiting to be unlocked. It was these dreams that had kept Riley awake, staring up at the stars, wondering if there was something more to her existence than the quiet life she led. It wasn't until the night of the attack that she realized how true those dreams had been. The sky above Nimra was streaked with fire as the invasion began. Ships, far larger and more advanced than anything the planet's defense forces could handle, descended from the heavens. Riley had never seen anything like it. Warships covered in strange symbols, their hulls glistening in the light of the distant stars. They came with a single purpose: to find her. Riley's parents were the first to go. A missile hit their home, leaving only a crater where it had once stood. But Riley, on the verge of losing everything, felt something stir inside her, a power she couldn't explain. As the ground shook beneath her feet, she felt her heart race, and before she even knew what she was doing, she had fled into the wilderness, her body moving with a speed and agility she never knew she possessed. The invaders, strange beings with armor that shimmered in the light, were searching for something. The planet's leaders had long suspected there was more to the human race than met the eye, but none had been brave enough to uncover the truth. And now, the secret of humanity had surfaced, not in the form of a vast fleet or a galaxy-spanning empire, but in the blood of one lone girl. Riley didn't know what the invaders wanted with her. She had no connection to the myth of humanity's ancient might, at least none that she could remember. But deep down, she sensed that her blood was the key to something far greater than she could comprehend. As she ran through the dense forests of Nimra, her heart pounding in her chest, Riley knew one thing for certain: they would not stop until they found her. And when they did, she would have no choice but to face the truth. The days that followed were a blur of chaos. The planet's defenses fell in the wake of the invasion, and the once peaceful world descended into anarchy. Riley moved quickly, finding refuge in the shadows, hiding from the invaders who scoured every inch of the planet. But it wasn't long before the whisper started. Rumors of her existence began to spread. In the dark corners of Nimra's ruined cities, a secret organization known as the Coalition was preparing for war. They had long been aware of the legend of humanity, passed down through forbidden texts, and had waited for the day when humanity would return. But the appearance of Riley, the girl who had been born of human blood, was the sign they had been waiting for. The Coalition had their eyes set on her, for they knew the truth. Riley was the key to awakening humanity's ancient power, a power capable of changing the balance of the entire galaxy. Riley wasn't ready for any of this. She had spent her life on a quiet farm, learning how to care for crops and animals, never once imagining that she was the last hope for a dying species. And yet, as the stars flickered overhead, she couldn't shake the feeling that her destiny had already been written in the stars. The invaders were getting closer. The world around her was crumbling. But Riley had no choice now but to embrace what was coming, and in doing so, perhaps, unlock the truth about herself and the bloodline that ran through her veins. Riley had always believed she was just a simple girl, but now, as she crouched in the shadows of a crumbling city, with the air thick with smoke and the distant rumble of explosions, the truth was becoming harder to ignore. There was something in her blood, something that connected her to the ancient stories of humanity, a power she could neither control nor fully understand. She had spent the past week evading the alien invaders, known only as the Zorith, their technology far more advanced than anything Nimra's military had ever dreamed of. These invaders seemed to have one singular purpose: to find her. Riley had no idea why they wanted her or what they believed she was capable of, but she knew one thing. Every time she closed her eyes, the power within her stirred, as if waiting to be unleashed. The Coalition had contacted her just days after she fled the attack on her home. They had found her, hidden deep within the remnants of a ruined city where she had taken shelter. They were the only ones who seemed to understand what was happening, or at least they were the only ones who seemed to know what to do about it. When Riley first met the Coalition, she didn't know whether to trust them. They had approached her cautiously, their leader, Captain Alara, offering her protection. But Riley couldn't help but feel that they wanted something from her, something that went beyond just keeping her safe. "Alara, why do they want me?" Riley asked, her voice hoarse from days of running and hiding. Alara, a tall woman with short-cropped silver hair and sharp, calculating eyes, looked at her gravely. "The Zorith are after you, because you hold the key to humanity's power. In ancient times, humans were the rulers of the galaxy. We were the ones who shaped the stars and forged empires. But something happened, something that caused us to vanish, our legacy all but erased from history. The Zorith know this, and they believe you carry the bloodline of those ancient humans. They think that by capturing you, they can harness this power, and with it, dominate the entire galaxy." Riley's heart raced. "But I'm just a farm girl. How can I possibly have any of that in me?" Alara's eyes softened. "It's not something you can control, yet. The power in your blood is dormant, waiting for the right moment to awaken. The Zorith want to exploit that power, and if they succeed, there will be nothing left of Nimra or any of us. But you have a choice. You can embrace this legacy, this bloodline, and stand against them, or you can run." Riley swallowed hard. The idea of standing against the Zorith, against the seemingly unstoppable force that had already decimated so much of her world, terrified her. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't a hero. She was just a girl. But something deep inside her stirred, something she couldn't ignore. A whisper in the back of her mind, urging her to rise, to fight, to reclaim what had been lost. I don't know how to fight," Riley said, her voice trembling. "You don't have to do it alone," Alara reassured her. "We'll teach you. But you must make the choice. You cannot run forever." Riley's gaze shifted to the distant hills, where the last remnants of the sun were sinking beneath the horizon. She thought of her family, of the life she had lost, and the quiet world she would never return to. The peaceful days on the farm were gone. The Zorith weren't just after her, they were after everything. And if they succeeded, the galaxy itself would fall under their reign. "I don't know if I can do this," Riley admitted, her voice small. "But I have to try. For Nimra. For everyone." Alara nodded, a small but approving smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "You have more strength than you know. Let us help you unlock it." That night, as Riley lay awake in the shelter the Coalition had provided, she felt a strange sensation in her veins. The dreams had returned, but this time they weren't just dreams. The warship from her visions was clearer now, closer, as if it were reaching out to her across the vast distances of time and space. Her heart raced as she felt something shift within her, a surge of energy that was almost too much to bear. And then, for the first time, she understood. The power she had felt stirring inside her was not just a memory, it was her inheritance. The blood of humanity's ancient empire ran through her veins, and it was time for that power to awaken. The Zorith were coming, and Riley was no longer just a girl. She was the last hope of humanity. The first time Riley felt the full force of the power in her blood, it terrified her. The surge was like a tidal wave crashing through her body, an overwhelming rush of raw energy that left her breathless and disoriented. It was as if every nerve, every fiber of her being had been touched by a force older than the stars themselves. The dreams, once hazy and cryptic, had transformed into something more tangible, as if they were memories locked away in her mind, waiting to be unearthed. The dreams weren't just visions anymore, they were guides. Her mind was awash with images of a forgotten past, ancient cities, towering above planets she had never seen, where humans wielded technology that bent the laws of physics and command over energy itself. There were glimpses of weapons that could annihilate entire fleets with a single thought, of fleets that filled the heavens, and of a dark power that had erased all traces of humanity from a galaxy. As Riley stumbled from the shelter that night, gasping for breath, she was met by Captain Alara, who had been watching closely. She could see the fear in Riley's eyes, but also the unmistakable spark of understanding. "It's starting," Alara said, her voice low. "The bloodline is awakening. The power inside you, it's more than you can imagine." Riley clenched her fists, feeling a strange in her bones. "But I don't know how to control it. How can I? How do I even use this?" Alara studied her with quiet intensity. "You don't need to control it. Not yet. The power is in your DNA. It will shape itself to your will, but only when you truly understand what you're fighting for. The Zorth didn't just come for you. They came for humanity's legacy. Your blood carries that legacy, Riley. You are the key to something much greater." The girl's mind spun. What was she supposed to do with all of this? She wasn't trained for war. She was a farmer, a simple girl who had never even imagined she could wield anything like this. The weight of it all pressed down on her chest, threatening to crush her. "We have to find the last of the ancient human ships," Alara continued, her gaze steely. "The Coalition has discovered a location deep in the heart of the wastelands. It said that the ship will awaken you, help you unlock the final stages of your power. Once you do, you'll be able to fight back." Riley's throat tightened. A ship? She was supposed to find a ship. And what? Unlock the full power of her ancestors? It felt like too much, but Alara's determination was infectious. "There's no time," Alara added. "The Zorith are closer now. They've started sweeping the planet in earnest, and they know where we are. We have to move quickly." Riley took a deep breath. "Let's go then." The journey to the wastelands was harrowing. The once lush landscape of Nimra had become a war-torn hellscape, scarred by the invasion. Once pristine cities lay in ruins, their inhabitants either dead or captured. The Coalition's forces, a ragtag group of resistance fighters, moved swiftly through the rubble, skirting Zorith patrols and keeping to the shadows. Riley had never felt so out of place, yet every step she took seemed to pulse with that strange, insistent energy, as if the very planet was responding to the blood in her veins. As they approached the coordinates Alara had uncovered, a chilling silence fell over the group. They were deep in the wastelands now, far from the last remnants of civilization, where even the stars seemed to shudder in the empty sky. They came upon a massive crater, the remnants of an ancient city swallowed by time. At its center stood a structure, cracked and overgrown with the twisted vines of alien plants, but unmistakable. It was a ship, a vessel so large that even the sight of it took Riley's breath away. "Alara, this is it?" Riley whispered, unable to look away from the dormant hulk. It was beautiful, in its own way, sleek, with angular lines and a surface that seemed to shimmer in the dim light, as though it had been forged from some kind of metal that did not belong to this world. Alara nodded. "This is the Archetype, the flagship of humanity's lost fleet. It's been waiting for you." Riley's heart raced as they approached the ship, every instinct screaming at her to turn back. But as her fingers brushed against the surface of the ship, a strange warmth pulsed beneath her touch. The ship seemed to respond to her, as if it recognized her, as if it had been waiting for her all along. "Step inside," Alara urged. "It's time." The door to the ship slid open with a hiss, revealing a dark, metallic interior. The air inside was stale, but as Riley took her first step inside, she felt the energy in her blood stir once more powerful this time. It was like the ship was alive, its systems reacting to her presence. Suddenly, the walls hummed with a low frequency, and a voice, ancient and familiar, spoke directly into her mind. "Humanity has returned. The bloodline awakens." Riley's breath caught in her throat as the ship's lights flared to life, illuminating a chamber at the center of the vessel. In the middle, an intricately carved seat awaited her. A throne, if one could call it that. One that seemed to beckon her. With trembling hands, Riley stepped forward and sat down. And in that moment, everything changed. The power surged through her, not as a chaotic storm, but as a calm and focused force. She could feel the ship's systems synchronizing with her heartbeat, the legacy of humanity awakening in perfect harmony with her will. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and the voice spoke again. "The war is yours to win, Commander." Riley closed her eyes, and for the first time since the invasion began, she felt ready. Ready to fight. Ready to unlock the full power of her ancestors and take back her world. Riley's mind swirled with a mixture of awe and fear as the ancient ship's systems hummed around her, sinking with the blood coursing through her veins. Her heart was racing, but it no longer felt like her own. The ship, the archetype, responded to her every thought, every command, as if it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for her. The voice in her mind continued to speak, not in words, but in feelings, memories, and images. The ship's systems unlocked, revealing layers of knowledge she never could have imagined. Ancient human technologies flooded her mind, algorithms and star maps, military strategies, and weapons long thought to be nothing more than myths. It was overwhelming, but Riley could feel something stirring inside her, a part of her that had been dormant for so long, now waking up. This was her birthright, her inheritance. "Ilara," Riley whispered, her voice shaky but strong. "I can feel it. The ship, it's alive." Ilara stood at the threshold of the command center, her eyes filled with a mixture of wonder and concern. "It's not alive, Riley. It's powered by your blood, by the legacy of humanity. You've unlocked something incredible. But the Zorth won't wait for us to figure this out. They're coming for you. They'll stop at nothing to take you down." Riley nodded, a new determination hardening within her. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was the last hope of humanity, and the archetype was her weapon. As she stood up from the throne, her fingers instinctively reached for the control panels around her. They lit up in response, awaiting her command. She focused, and in an instant, the ship's systems came alive, engines igniting, shields forming, weapon systems activating. The walls around her shimmered with an energy field, and she could feel the power coursing through her like a living thing. Her mind was no longer clouded with doubt. She was becoming something else, something greater. "You're ready, Riley," Ilara said, her voice calm, but her eyes reflecting the same urgency Riley felt in her chest. "You've unlocked the power, but now you need to wield it. The Zorth won't give you a moment to breathe." Riley turned to face the towering viewport in front of her, watching as the stars outside shifted. The faint blue glow of Nimra's atmosphere growing dimmer with every passing second. The Zorth's fleet had been spotted approaching the planet's orbit, massive warships, their dark silhouettes growing ever larger as they neared. Riley knew that this battle would determine the fate of her world, of humanity's legacy. "Ilara," she said, her voice steady now, "it's time. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to stop them." The archetype responded to her words as though it understood. The massive ship surged forward, propelled by engines that hummed with power Riley had only just begun to understand. The hull rippled with energy, and her hands tightened around the controls, feeling the resonance deep within her. The Zorth's fleet was massive, but Riley was no longer intimidated. She was humanity's last hope, and in her blood ran the power to reclaim the stars. As the archetype tore through the sky toward the enemy, Riley could feel the heartbeat of the ancient ship in time with her own. The first blast came without warning, a Zorth warship opening fire from the outer edge of their formation. The ship's weaponry struck the archetype, but the shields flared to life, absorbing the impact and pushing back against the assault. "Lock onto their weapon systems," Riley ordered, her voice now commanding. It was no longer just instinct. It was the knowledge passed down through the bloodline of her ancestors, and the ship obeyed. A beam of energy shot from the archetype, its power far more devastating than Riley had expected. It sliced through the enemy ship's hull like a hot knife through butter, sending a shockwave through the Zorith formation. The alien fleet reeled, their ships scrambling to respond. Ilara, Riley shouted over the comms. This ship's power, it's beyond anything I imagined. You're just getting started. Ilara's voice crackled back. Focus, Riley. There are more of them. Don't get distracted. Riley focused, tightening her grip on the controls. The archetype sensors began to ping, indicating that more Zorith warships were closing in from all directions. Their fleet was far larger than anything the planet had ever seen, but Riley wasn't afraid. The ship pulsed with energy beneath her, and she could feel it all. Every ship, every weapon, every movement of the Zorith, as if they were part of her own body. The next Zorith warship came into her line of sight, and without a second thought, she gave the command. The archetype's massive weaponry fired once more, a brilliant pulse of energy that struck the Zorith ship with such force that it disintegrated into space dust, its remains scattering into the void. The Zorith fleet was in disarray, their once coordinated movements breaking apart as their ships struggled to regroup. Riley, there's a flagship in the back of their formation, Ilara said, her voice urgent. That's where their commander is. If you can take it out, the rest of the fleet will fall. Riley's gaze hardened. She could feel the presence of the flagship in her mind, its location pinpointed by the ship's systems. The commander of the Zorith, the one who had orchestrated this invasion, was there, hiding behind the ranks of his forces. She wasn't going to let him hide anymore. Coordinates locked, Riley said. Let's end this. The archetype surged forward again, faster than any ship should be able to move. Riley guided it with a steady hand, weaving through the scattered wreckage of the Zorith ships as she made her way toward the flagship. As she approached, the flagship's shields flared to life, but they weren't enough to stop the wrath of humanity's power. The archetype's weapons fired once more, and the flagship exploded in a brilliant burst of energy, leaving nothing but shattered debris in its wake. With the flagship destroyed, the remaining Zorith ships scattered, their coordination lost without their leader. Riley felt the ship's systems pulse with victory, and she knew the battle had been won. But as the silence of space enveloped them, one question still lingered in her mind. What came next? The destruction of the Zorith flagship sent ripples through their entire fleet. Without their commander to direct them, the remaining warships scattered, fleeing into the depths of space or crumbling in defeat. The battle had been won, but Riley knew the victory was only the beginning. The invasion was just the first phase of a larger war, one that would extend far beyond Nimra. The Zoritha's grip on the galaxy had only just begun to tighten. The archetype hovered in the aftermath of the battle, its energy reserves depleted, but still humming with the echoes of ancient power. Riley leaned back in her seat, her hands trembling from the intensity of what she had just experienced. The weight of the galaxy seemed to press down on her shoulders, but there was no time for hesitation. Ilara, Riley said, her voice steady but filled with exhaustion. It's over for now, but I don't think this is the last we've seen of the Zorith. Ilara nodded grimly, her expression serious. She had seen enough battles to know that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict. You're right, but this is the turning point, Riley. The Zorith may have underestimated you, but now they know what you are. They know what humanity's bloodline means. Riley looked out at the wreckage of the battlefield, the remnants of the Zorith ships, some floating in the void, others drifting as debris. But she didn't feel the victory she had expected. The truth weighed heavily on her heart. The Zorith will come back, Riley said softly. But I can't do this alone. Not forever. I can feel it, Ilara. This power, it's too much. It's not just the ship, it's everything. The knowledge of humanity's empire, its technology, its warships. It's all inside me. But I'm just one person. I need help. Ilara approached her, placing a hand on Riley's shoulder. You're not alone. You never were. The Coalition stands with you. The galaxy stands with you. You're the spark we needed to ignite the fire, Riley. You've unlocked the power of humanity's legacy. Now it's time to rebuild. Riley's heart swelled with a strange mix of relief and fear. She had done what she thought was impossible, defeating the Zoratha's invasion, awakening the legacy of humanity. But now she had to face a far greater challenge, leading the galaxy's rebirth. The archetype had opened the door to unimaginable power, but with that power came an immense responsibility. It was no longer just about survival. It was about rebuilding an empire, reawakening the ideals of the past, and forging a new future for all the species of the galaxy. "We need to make contact with the other planets," Riley said, her voice growing more confident. "The Zorath won't be the only threat. I've seen it. There are others out there, other species that will try to seize what humanity once had. We need to unite the galaxy before it's too late." Alara smiled, a glint of pride in her eyes. "I've already sent out the signal. The Coalition has been in contact with several systems. There are factions, rebels, miners, mercenaries, who are all waiting for a sign. You've given them that sign, Riley. The galaxy knows that humanity's bloodline still lives." A new fire ignited within Riley's chest. It wasn't just about the Zorath anymore. It was about the future of the entire galaxy, about standing against the rising darkness and uniting the fractured systems that had been torn apart by war and conquest. Humanity's legacy wasn't just about power, it was about hope. But there was still one question left unanswered. What did it mean to be the last of humanity's bloodline? Riley felt the weight of her ancestors' legacy in every breath, but she also understood that she had to forge her own path. The power in her blood wasn't a guarantee of victory, it was a tool. It was up to her how it was used. The archetype systems began to activate again, its engines warming, ready for the journey ahead. Riley stood looking at the galaxy beyond, the stars that had once been so distant, so unreachable. They were within her grasp now. "Let's start building," Riley said, determination lighting up her eyes. "We're going to bring humanity back." Weeks passed as Riley and Alara worked tirelessly to forge alliances across the galaxy. The Coalition grew in strength as more systems rallied to their cause. Riley became more than just a symbol. She became the leader they needed, the embodiment of humanity's forgotten power. With the archetype as their flagship, they took their fight to every corner of the galaxy, pushing back against the Zorath and others who sought to dominate. The first true victory came when Riley led a coalition of planets to reclaim a key system from the Zoratha's grasp. It wasn't a full-scale war yet, but it was a step toward unity, a sign that the galaxy was waking up from the long slumber of division and tyranny. As Riley stood on the command bridge of the archetype, watching the stars as they passed by, she knew that the galaxy had entered a new era. The power of humanity's legacy was hers to wield, but it wasn't just about reclaiming what had been lost. It was about shaping the future, a future where humanity's ideals of freedom, unity, and strength would live again. Her ancestors had built great empires, but she would build something different. A galaxy united not by fear, but by hope. And for the first time since the invasion began, Riley believed it could be done. The galaxy was waking up, and humanity's legacy would burn bright once more. The end.